with all the big calls on all the big races. Welcome back to another edition of What a Shout, the Racing Post's flagship feature weekend show, brought to you Friday morning. We film somewhere in the capital. Dave Orton back hosting as ever. Delighted to be with you. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Those subscribers are going through the roof at the minute. Facebook or anything on Twitter, hashtag What a Shout. Who's on the panel? As ever, he's back. King Keels, I think we can call you again now, can't we, after last weekend?
I'll go over the top, mate. Just had a couple of winners.
You know me, like to curry favour. Yeah, it was a good weekend, Keels, wasn't it? We'll get into that in the racing clues, of course.
Yeah, it was very good. Nice winner at York, Johnny Drama. Big drifter on the day. Quite happy with that, because you know me, because I go back in.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a very good day.
Marvellous. And Pat Cooney. Patrick Cooney then, where are you? Bet365. This is a sign of the times, Pat. You're getting out more.
Absolutely, yeah. We're sponsoring 2 days at Newbury Racecourse, so I'm about 2 miles from the track in a hotel as we speak.
Now, geographically, that's going to make a lot of sense. It happens to be a feature race, of course, the Super Sprint this weekend at Newbury and at Woodway Stables in Didcot, very close to Newbury. And then I guess that's the local stable, isn't it? Eve Johnson Houghton joins us. Good morning, Eve.
Morning, how are you?
Marvellous, thank you. Yeah, it's a great time of year, isn't it? It's a great time of life as well. Everyone's getting back out July the 19th, just around the corner. Full race goers. Even us press now can go in with our normal badges. And it's fair to say, Eve, that we have got some fans of yours on the panel. Now, in 2019, you will remember better than most the first race of Royal Ascot. It was absolutely chucking down. We were all staring down the barrel of a huge week. Here we go, right? What's the weather going to be like? Was it 33-1 accidental agent? Got through, of course, in the Queen Anne. You broke through at Group 1 level. Outright as a trainer, of course. We'll go to that in a little bit. You took over from your father, of course. Many, many Group 1s for Falk, your father. But there was somebody, annoyingly, who tipped him in the paper. It happened to be Paul Kealy. Was this your finest moment?
What's annoying about that?
Because it was the start of the week, man.
I tell you what, I had to wait until Aguatera in the Sandringham to get another winner at the meeting. But
that was the pleasing bit.
Yeah, but it was, it's one of those things. When you get a year where you haven't got a superstar, then there's not that much difference between the very, very top horses in handicaps and your group horses. And then you get a race like the Queen Anne when there's no superstar, you get a big field. So you get a race that's run more like a big field handicap, and then you got a horse like Accidental Agent, who's miles better at Ascot than anywhere else. You've got to remember he'd won the International on King George's Day. I think he'd been placed in the Balmoral, on different grounds, and it was just a massive, massive price. And I just didn't see how anybody couldn't fancy it. To be honest, to be in the frame. I mean, the win to get the crown jewels, it is amazing. But it'd been a really eye-catching run in the Lock-Inget. Newbury as well, because he'd been slow away and he'd finished really fast from off the pace, and I just thought everything was there, and yeah, got lucky. I mean, when you tip horses that win at big prices, you get a bit of luck involved, but at the end of the day, there wasn't any luck with the way he went through the race, and nothing got in trouble really, and he just won and deserved it. I loved him.
Well, there you go. Kills thought it was a certainty then, Eve, and it was a family connection, wasn't it? It was great to see the celebrations after that.
It was an amazing day, and I know a lot of people poo-poo it, saying, well, it wasn't a great Group 1. He bought a lot of Group 1 winners, former Group 1 winners and subsequent Group 1 winners. And if he ran a stone above his best, what a day to do it. What an amazing day to do it.
Yeah, and Charlie Bishop, of course, breaking through as well. Charlie's written over a quarter of your winners we worked out here at the Racing Post. 440 winners then, Eve, since you started training in 2007. Hopefully we've got that right. Obviously, the Group 1 winner. Let's get the horses up on screen for our viewers. And to remind you, your best horses, they're ranked, Eve, by Racing Post Ratings. Of course, Accidental Agent at the top. Got a certain very talented Jumbie who running this season for you currently as well. But we've got some favourites there as well. Who remembers the Checker? What about Carlo? We'll get a word on these from our favourite horses, of course. But Eve, of course, you're steeped in racing heritage, aren't you?
Yes, I've been very, very lucky. I've been brought up in it. So I'm living now where I grew up, which is great.
Yeah, your dad, of course, Falk, one of the greats out there, well over 1,000 winners, I think 1,200 winners, something like that. Also like Ribeiro, of course. But you, as assistant to him, just before you took over, you tasted Group 1 success, didn't you, in the Dewhurst?
Yes, we were sort of struggling for numbers, and so I put a syndicate together and bought a couple of horses, one of which was Toots Earl. So He won round 7 times as 2-year-old, won 5 of them, and one of them was the Dewhurst.
How time flies. Pat Cooney then, one of those horses flagged up there on the screen you wanted to ask Eve about.
Yeah, Eve, I love the horse of yours. What about Carlo? I think I managed to back him in every race that he won, and every time it rained, he had a massive chance. But he won 2 of our Bet365 races, the Esher Cup in 2014 and the Steventon, which we've got at Newbury on Saturday. But a little soft ground. But I was going to ask, how maddening was it to try and keep a horse like him on the go in anticipation of soft ground? And, of course, this fella actually won on Derby Day one year. I think a big handicap that day as well. So, how hard was it to keep him in training with races in mind, thinking the ground's going to go against me at any minute now?
It's almost easier when you know what ground to run on, because there's no point in running on anything but soft or good to soft. It actually just had to be the soft side for him. It wasn't too bad. But, he just kept him ticking over, and he was just a dude of a horse, so he was very easy to deal with, especially as he got older. And he was a pleasure to have about.
Yeah, you loved him, Kills, didn't you?
Yeah, it's quite a few of these horses I've loved. It's what happens when you follow a trainer, isn't it? I used to back Judd Street all the time. I used to back the Checker. Scarlet Dragon was now of Alan King. Started there. Yeah, plenty. And what about Carlo? Yeah, I'm a bit like Pat. I think, but I back Carlo for every race he won and most of the ones he lost.
And Jumbie, of course, is awesome.
Yeah, and Jumbie's another one of mine. Yeah, I had a real good bet on him when he won at Newmarket.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so look, there we are. And just a quick word then on your Group 1 winner, of course, is still very much in training. And he runs in a handicap tomorrow at Newmarket, Eve, you were telling us.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I gelded him, so we keep him in the yard. He'll keep running. He could just do with a handicapper possibly dropping him a few pounds. But the trouble is, he runs his best race at Ascot, so then we run him at Ascot, and then handicapper goes, well, you don't need to drop him a few pounds because he's run really well. Anyway, he's at Newmarket, straight mile. We put George Adobe on, taking £5 off. He seems in great form, and we're very hopeful.
There you are then. A word on the stable star. I think we can call him that, can't we? Great to have Eve on the show. Let's see exactly what is coming up for you then. What's the hot topic this week? Sunday service. Yeah, you'd have seen quite a lot of news this week and voices coming out in the Racing Post this week, of course, about these later starts on the Sunday. We'll get a word from Eve and Kills and Pat on that. We'll look at the racing clues from last weekend. Super Saturday, they called it. It was for some, without question. All the big race previews, some big calls and weekend winners. So, if this weekend you'd like to sign up to our sponsors, Bet365, that referral code, it's still out there. Shout365. Type that in when joining. Minimum £5 deposit for up to £100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. Hot topic this week then, Sunday service. Well, in 2020, with that wonderfully truncated campaign as it turned out, we had bang eclipse on the Sunday, didn't we? Oaks' classics at the Curragh we'd go. Everyone thought to themselves, about time that we caught up with Ireland and France and had some wonderful Sunday racing. Someone out there has listened, because starting soon is a new series. Basically, Sky Bet on Sundays are doing this new series. Prize money looks okay. However, they are starting later. So, Kills, it's going to be tea time starts on a Sunday. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I can understand people moaning about it, to be honest, because, we're already racing 7 days a week. I mean, we all know that, we have to work all sorts of days. But when it comes to stable stuff, they've got to travel as well. And if you're going to put big prize money on, let's say, one of them's taking place at Musselburgh, isn't it? It's not like Newmarket trainers aren't going to go there. And then you're finishing at, 7, 8 o'clock, taking 6 hours to get back. And Sunday was the one day I don't see why. I actually thought myself when I saw the story, I thought to myself, actually, why don't Sunday racing just kick off at 12 and finish at 3:30, get it out of the way, and give everybody the half day off? Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you've got to go to Musselburgh and be there for midday, then you're starting really early anyway. There is a balance to it, but I don't see the point of having what are essentially evening meetings on a Sunday.
The unsung heroes of the game, isn't it, Kills? Which sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in a situation where the racing is not good at the moment. We have low prize money, we have low wages, and we don't have a great race program. I don't think at the moment. I mean, you see today. I mean, there's a card at Newmarket. There's only one race with more than 7 runners in it.
Yeah.
So there's plenty wrong, and I just think you're adding one more wrong thing to it myself.
Yeah, that's a bizarre one, and perhaps a whole topic on itself, isn't it? Northern trainers used to these big Southern yards coming up, taking the money, but yet they won't race on their doorstep at Newmarket. Eve, let's throw this over to you. Potential banana skin?
I think it's really difficult. You know, they came to us and said, would you support it? We're going to chuck a lot of money at it. And so everyone says, oh, there's not enough prize money in racing. So then you go, yep, well, let's support an initiative to get more prize money. The trouble is, that's what they said about the original Sunday racing. Originally, it was, oh, yes, and everyone will get appearance money and it'll all be good racing and massive prize. And it's gone down to pathetic racing with pathetic prize money. And what's the point? Why do we need this? It's got to, why can we not, as you say, have the eclipse on a Sunday, have proper racing on a Sunday? I don't understand why we've got to have dismal racing. And they just, for a couple of years, throw a lot of money at it and think, well, that's a lost leader. Don't worry, we'll have it down to £5,000 a race in no time.
Before we go to Pat and take a bookmaker angle on this, Eve, let's stick with you. Do you think then that the BHA and the powers that be who do the fixture list, of course, we've seen the 2022 fixture list now pretty much, they had a chance, didn't they? I mean, with the pandemic, we missed 3 months of racing. We saw what the public appetite was. You've even had big bookmakers saying there's too much racing. You know, when that happens, there's something's going to break, isn't it? Yet you've got ARC, for example, petitioning for more races at these meetings as well. Was this a chance, a golden opportunity missed to slightly dilute our programme and thus give more prize money?
I believe we definitely should have cut back on the fixtures. I think we proved it was work. And I think the trainers are unanimous in their opinion that they do not want more racing, and nor do stable staff. You know, we're the people, the trainers and the stable staff, we have to actually get all the horses together. We have to work it all out and provide all business going on. And we are adamant there are too many fixtures.
Another leading lady trainer, of course, Gay Calloway, saying that, you know, talking about her travels up to Wolverhampton, you might have seen on a great social channel. And of course, what time she actually gets back at night and how tired she's going to be driving. Is there a potential accident out there? Scary stuff. Pat Cooney then. Even you bookmakers have been saying too much racing. When does it stop, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just go back a week, actually, Dave, to the so-called Super Saturday card. Well, of course, we all had a great time at Newmarket, July Cup Day, Bunbury Cup Day. Turnover was fantastic. There was York on as well, John Smith's Day. Turnover was fantastic. Ascot was on. Ascot on a Saturday. Turnover was absolutely dreadful. Even for my sins, if you said to me, what's running at Ascot today, I barely knew a runner. So definitely the case. And as for the stable stuff, I do worry about the smaller stables. You know, how are you going to retain staff if you change them, right? You're going to go to an evening meeting on a Sunday. You're not going to get back till 2 o'clock Monday morning. There would never be any problem getting staff at the bigger stables, but the smaller stables, they've got to be thinking, well, hang on, I might be struggling for staff here. You know, and I come from a greyhound racing background as well, and you know, some of these meetings start at 8:15 in the morning. You know, irrespective if it's summer or winter. That can't be any good for stable staff driving in bad conditions and so forth. So it's something that we should be flagging up, definitely. And as far as too much racing, of course there is. There's you know, there should be a scenario. I'd like to run in the 100 meters in the Olympics, for example, but I couldn't do the qualifying time, so I shouldn't be good enough to run. So I think there is too much racing, and certainly looking at the Super Saturday, I suppose we'll still be sitting here in a year's time moaning. But Ascot, this is a golden chance for them to say, actually, what we'll do, we'll move to the Sunday, and we'll have a cracking card on the Sunday. And as for the new innovation, great to have prize money coming in. But I'm a little bit with Keels on this one. You could start at midday and you know, have a right proper family picnic afternoon. Who wants to be sitting in the chair at 3 o'clock saying, right, come on, we better leave now?
Yeah, the big problem with Sundays, I mean, I agree, I'd like to see really good racing on Sunday, but the big problem with racecourses is because they can't sell corporate on a Sunday.
Because you've got Monday morning coming up.
Well, yeah, you've got Monday morning, but they, you know, it's seen as the family day by a lot of people, so you're not going to get people buying boxes and having, you know, your big waitress service and all that. You're not going to have that. And while that happens, then they're just not going to want to do it. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Okay, so perhaps someone will be listening to this out there. You've promised the prize money, you've promised the incentives. Let's make sure that happens, shall we? Racing clues then. Super Saturday, or as some called it in the studio, Saturation Saturday. Turned out it was your best Saturday of the year, man. Absolutely scenes in here from Kill. I thought to myself, oh, he's going to have to eat those words and eat them. You might. I mean, from a punting perspective, obviously it went very well.
It did. It did. It's one of those. I mean, I did probably have a couple too many bets at the end of the day, but it was going well. So that's neither here nor there. But no, I mean, look, when the day comes along, I absolutely love it. Like, you know what I mean? But there is too much. I'd still prefer one of those meetings to be on Saturday tomorrow.
Ascot.
You know, Ascot maybe, yeah, you know. But even so, I mean, there was some great racing.
There were, of course, Tilsit at Ascot took out the Summer Mile. You've all seen that one, basically. But let's talk about some Group 1 action, because we thought it was one of the July Cups for the ages. He's not been rated the best winner in the last 10 years, slightly below 10 sovereigns, Starman. But Tom Marquand got off afterwards and went, he's as close to a race car as you could possibly get, Keels. He beat the right horses. It was a fantastic race to watch. He met trouble. Is this the next great thing?
Well, he could be, couldn't he? But we always, you know, the one thing about building up horses is then you find out they're not quite so good as they are, don't you? You know, I think we build up horses too early, but he looked really, really good. By the same token, Oxted looked brilliant when he ran a race last year, and he still ran a blinder, and he's won the King's Stand. So if he comes along, he's obviously a fast ground horse. He's the best around at the moment, and he's put up a decent figure. I hope that we see him go on and on and on. But where does he go? Where does he go next? I mean, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because we don't know, because Sprint Cups quite often run on soft ground.
De Geest.
The Champions quite often run on soft ground. The Champion Sprint nearly always run on soft ground. So you're worrying. I mean, we're talking about July, and you think, well, actually, where's he going to go next and get his ground? It might not work out like that. You can get fast ground at Haydock in September, but
is he a horse you could drop back to 5?
It'd be interesting. I think there's too many really good 5 furlong horses around. I think the way Batash lasted, as long as he did at Ascot off that ludicrous pace, tells me that he's every bit as good as he was last year.
I was thinking about the flying 5 for him, maybe that stiff finish at Curragh, but again,
it could be. But there's some decent horses out
Poor
there.
old Dragon
Obviously,
Symbol.
Winter Power as well. Winter Power won at York.
Yes, we'll get to that. Let's just stick with the July Cup for the minute, Kills, because I thought that Creative Force ran a blinder. I thought Ox did run a blinder, considering he had to come all the way across his draw. Brando ran a blinder. I can't remember.
Oh, Brando's brilliant. Anyway, Creative Force, Maurice de Guiche, or the
Foray. Yeah, all over the Foray.
All over. Like, you know, I mean, that he was really strong at the end, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just not.
The Dragon Symbol, when's he going to get a Group 1?
Well, I mean, he's the versatile one, isn't he? He's the versatile one. He'll go on anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but there was some...
Back to Ascot maybe for him.
Obviously good horses there.
Yeah. What a race it was. It was a great card. Of course, we had the Bunbury Cup beforehand, and Motakale, back-to-back winner, unusual thing in itself.
Yeah,
but the weight-carrying performance was...
Actually annoyed me, because I backed him the week before against the Glorious Journey, and I thought, you know, this horse really loves this track.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even think about him for the Bunbury Cup again under that weight, but he's come out and he's won just as easily as he did the year before. And, you know, he's obviously, he is a Group 2 horse on that track on fast ground. And it was rattling fast ground, which brings us to Native Trail.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's won by a narrow margin, but he's crying out for a stiffer test, isn't he?
Well, one, he's crying out for a stiffer test, and the other thing, he's crying out for softer ground. I mean, if he can do that on what was rattling fast ground, I think he could put up a really big performance when the ground soft. He's so big. Like, you know,
he looks beautiful.
He looks like, you know, he would power away from them on soft ground, I'm sure.
I wonder if we might have seen a horse that's going to go very close in the Guineas next year there.
Well, again, I mean, this time next year, I would be worried about him on very fast ground if it came up that way. But, you know, I don't think he needs it bottom, as he's obviously shown that he acts on very, very fast ground. But I think he will be a much better horse when he gets a bit of cut.
Yeah, it's the boys in blue having a really good time, but at the moment we'll get to that later on. But it wasn't just Native Trail, Pat Cooney, that caught your eye at Newmarket.
No, as impressive as he was, there was a horse that won the handicap, the race we sponsored earlier over the mile, Royal Fleet, the 3-year-old, also the boys in blue, Charlie Appleby, William Buick. And again, it was everyone's idea of the winner. He just had that unbeaten profile coming into the race. We all kind of presume, well, I suppose he'll win this. Well, he did win it, but he fell over the line. He only won by half a length. And they're talking to Charlie and William afterwards. I was at the presentation podium with them. And they said, oh, this is a right good horse, you know. As soon as he grows up and gets mentally better, he's going to be really, really good. And that just struck a chord with me. The handicapper's got a dilemma here. He's only won by half a length. He hangs to the left everywhere he goes. I don't think you've seen him on a right-handed course, that's for sure. He just wants to go left all the time. But the pair of them said to me, oh, we're getting to know more and more about him. He's a right good horse. Now, not often you can say that, and he's going to be in a handicap next time out, I'm sure. So bear him in mind, but keep in mind that he does go to the left all the time.
There you go. Royal Fleet then won to keep firmly on board for an operation that are having a great time. But let's go up to York then. Winter Power, first of all, fair play. Obviously, you have right from the start of this season said Nunthorpe, Nunthorpe, Nunthorpe. She goes back to York, having done too much at Ascot, and blows them away.
Yeah, again, she's very fast. It's keeping the lid on her, isn't it? I mean, this is the worry. I mean, it doesn't matter what track you race on. If you go too fast, you go too fast. They were never going to last at Ascot. But when we've got all these pace horses again heading towards the Nunthorpe, haven't we? Jockey did a real good job keeping the lid on her, but he's going to have to do that again in the Nunthorpe against horses that want to go fast, and she just wants to get on with it. You can see it in her. But yeah, she's very, very good. She was never going to get beat in that race. She basically won from the off, as far as I was concerned.
And Moskill, the right horse to beat, of course. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All roads now to the.
Always in Nunthorpe, she's going to have a major chance. But she's going to have two monsters, Golden Pal and Batash, against her.
Just before that, King Power, of course, Johnny Drama took it out. I must admit, I know that he likes York Kills, but I did think you were a little bit mad putting him up last week, because he's just one of those for me. Every time I'm with him, I seem to get him wrong.
Yeah, but horses like that can get in your head, though, can't they? I mean, I've got enough of them myself. You know what I mean? So, but it was simply one of those. He'd gone up. His all-weather mark had been separated from his turf mark by £9, and the all-weather form was more recent. But I mean, he was only a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And it just, he's either improved or he hasn't, and it turned out that he had.
Yes, so it was a bit of a funny race, wasn't it? The pace held up, basically, and if you were held up out the back, you didn't have much of a chance. But Johnny Drama, Tom Segal, Paul Kealy, both put him up in the paper, goes off at 22-1. Strange game, isn't it? OK, let's go to France, because there was the Prix Jean Pat on Sunday. I've got to mention this. Looks like a slightly substandard Group 1 on paper, but Thunder Moon, finally, we thought he was bouncing back. We thought he might have gone at Royal Ascot. Of course, he got touched off by Laura Vindices. Ken Condon getting another Group 1 in the bag. And then, of course, so that we think soft ground, substandard Group 1. But we had a midweek treat, didn't we? Because Hurricane Lane came out 18 days only after the Irish Derby. And it was a bit of a roll of the dice, we're thinking, because he'd run in a few dances, and he's turned up to, of course. And
yeah, I mean, did they supplement him? I can't remember whether they did or not, but it was obviously.
I don't think so.
He'd obviously been working really well, or bounced out of the Curragh really well for them to think, well, let's go here as well. And he won without turning a hair, really, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he obviously, because that was very soft ground, and he obviously, another Franco who really does like soft ground, but he can act on anything. But again, remember when Cracksman won the Champion Stakes, when the ground was really, really soft. He looks that sort of level when the ground is like that, doesn't he? And he could be very good. And Adair will, I think, have his work cut out to confirm that Derby form at the moment. I mean, obviously he hasn't come out and run since, so we'll have to wait and see. And he's the lighter race of the pair. But it'd be fascinating, because obviously they're pushing on with Hurricane Lane, and where's Adair gone?
Yeah, you've got a feeling he might be the one for the
legend. Obviously they want to go for the King George, don't they? I think, but we'll have to wait and see. It's fascinating, but it looks like, what we've seen so far, it looks like we've had a really good Derby.
Yeah.
On paper beforehand, I didn't think it looked like anything like that, but that's what these 3-year-olds can do to you, don't they? They can surprise you. They do improve throughout the season. He's the one that's doing it. He is now the horse to beat, even though he didn't win the Derby.
Yeah, even he's getting quicker, said William Buick. It was a slightly slow pace scenario. Alan Carr, of course, the Royal Ascot winner, William Aggis, came from way out the back. Don't give up on him. But Pat Cooney, let's give you a final word on this. I think it's a hot topic in the making here, isn't there? Ballydoyle versus, the boys in blue at Godolphin. Is the tide turning there, basically? It seems like they're going to have a sterling season ahead. Hurricane Lane, what quotes were you giving us then after that then, Pat?
Well, he's now currently sits as joint favourite for the Arc de Triomphe at 11-2 with Love and Snowfall. But of course, we all had him down as the likely St. Ledger winner. Now, given that he won so well, does Charlie Appleby and Godolphin think, let's go full out for the Arc? So it could be one of these scenarios where he's too good to run in the St. Ledger and he's too close to the Arc. So a few of the lads in the office are on at fancy prices about him for the Ledger. They were hoping he would win well enough in France, but not that well, and not become an Arc de Triomphe candidate as opposed to a Ledger candidate. It's going to be fascinating to how they plan these horses with a Derby winner from Epsom and Ireland in the same stable. It's going to be tricky for them. The Ledger is there to be won if they want to have a crack at it, but What would you do? Would you rather go for the all guns blazing or stop on from the way and take in the ledger?
Yeah, I guess he'll be due a break at some point, Pat, won't he? But the cards will fall for Godolphin, that's for sure. Racing clues then. There you go. Loads of it. All these jump fans that say the flat season doesn't get me going. Who's not excited now? 150 at Newbury, kicking off our race previews there, is the Steventon Stakes. Really interesting race, this, Pat Cooney. We've seen the French Derby being advertised by St Mark's Basilica, and the 8th in that, Derab, heading your market.
Yeah, and Derab, of course, he's a half-brother to the magnificent Enable, so he's got that hanging around his neck at the moment. And, of course, he was considered good enough to go for the Prix de Jockey Club. It didn't work out. He finished 8th. Not totally disgraced, but he's got that progressive profile about him, hasn't he? But this is a tough race, I thought. And although Derab has probably been the best back during the week, there's some real good horses in opposition. I thought Real World was very interesting. Spectacular winner of the Royal Hunt Cup. That was over a mile. I was thinking, well, he wasn't stopping. He won by 4 lengths. And, of course, when Real World made his debut as on the track, it was over 10 furlongs, so stamina is not going to be an issue for him. And I think if the Real World Royal Hunt Cup form turns up, he's going to be very hard to beat. You can make cases out Solid Stone, Moving Time, etc. But it was a one-horse demolition, that Hunt Cup. He beat 29 horses that day. I think he's going to take the world to beat him, personally, Real World.
Is he a real worldie then, the Hunt Cup winner?
I don't know, but there is a real world of difference in running in a handicap of 94 under a £3 claimer and running off level weights against horses rated up to 113, I think. You know what I mean? There's a massive amount of difference. I couldn't back him as Fav for that.
I thought the Derab might be one to take on, actually.
Oh, me too. I mean, on paper, he has the worst form in the race, just about. You know what I mean? Okay, you send him to the French Derby. You send him to the French Derby because it looked a terrible race on paper.
He was drawn in the car park.
He went off second Fav.
He did.
He went off second Fav. And he'd won, obviously, the second to Snow Lantern in a maiden, but he had 3 goes to get off the mark in a maiden. Okay, he won by miles on the last one. But, he's got to step up to it. I think his place in the market is down to connections rather than form.
Yeah.
Pedigree too. Could win, but I prefer some solid form. I think the form of the Wolford and the Royal Ascot is very solid. And Solid Stone was third to Juan El Carlo, but I'm going to give Felix another chance because he's nearly twice the price, and I really fancied him in that Ascot race, and I think he was beaten at the start. He just wasn't travelling for me. Don't think he was quite right, and I think it was only his willingness that got him as close as he did. He was beaten 4 lengths in the end. But the form was worked out really well. Obviously, Yukon Glen was in there in about 5th, I think, and has come out and won since. And one of them down the field finished 4th under a big weight in the John Smith. So I think that's a solid piece of form, and I will take a chance on Felix.
You got Blue Cup in there as well, of course, for David Menuisier. You wonder whether the horse is going to get unlucky with the weather. Solid Stone was one of my biggest hopes of the week at Royal Ascot in that. And he ran really well. Brave effort to hold on the third, but it was just too quick for him, Kills. And it was good to soft originally through the week at Newbury. Come Saturday, it's going to quicken up.
Definitely going to quicken
I feel
up
for him, and I will have a little bit on. There's a fly in the ointment here for them all, and it's called Moving Time. And this horse was strongly fancied for Roger Ver. In the draw, beat him senseless at Ascot. He had no chance. He actually
go
ran
too
quite
fast
well.
as well. Did he go
He
too
went
fast?
a bit too fast because Andrea Ozzini had no choice but to go forward from that draw. Now hold on to him a bit more. If you go back to his maiden week, he beat Kamari. The Queen's Vase form's working out really well. Wordsworth, of course, second to Hurricane Lane in France. This is a horse they know that they've got a group horse on their hands. It's Moving Time for me.
He was well supported at Ascot as well, wasn't he?
He was, absolutely. So Moving Time, nearly nap time. 3 o'clock. Let's get fast and furious with the Hackwood Stakes Group 3 sprinters. Who's going to take this out, Pat Cooney? Who's going to go off favourite, Pat Cooney?
Well, the current favourite at the moment is Tabney, the Owen Burrows. I actually think King's Lynn will end up going off favourite. Now, King's Lynn, Royal Runners, punters like back in the Queen's colours. King's Lynn, not often this happens, is it? He was unlucky in 2 races at the Royal Meeting. He was unlucky in the King's Stand on the Tuesday. He rocked up in the Wokenham. He was unlucky in the Wokenham as well. He was maybe the moral winner of that. So I just think he found traffic in both those races. There's only a small field tomorrow, going up a furlong from the King's Stand. You could just see Oisin Murphy just sitting, finding the gap when it's necessary. I think that one's got a leading chance. Tabdi, his position in the market is going to be interesting. It looks like he's ground dependent. I remember he won it on good ground when he a few seasons ago. And Owen Burrow said that's as fast as he wants it. So you never know. By 3 o'clock on Saturday, it could be rattling fast ground, which would be a concern for him. The form book says Tabdi is probably the one. I think if the video replayers will be saying no, King's Lynn is the one, but it's a deep old race. There's the others are very much in the equation, but I think King's Lynn will just have that market support.
That's a brilliant preview that from Pat. He's definitely done his.
We can go home.
We can go home, Pat. Happy days. We'll just do the show. I'll tell you what. He's been asking guest questions as well. I'll tell you what. Sooner or later, I'm out of a job. I can see this happening. It's been a Pat Cooney show. But absolutely, he's quite right, isn't he? Because King's Lynn probably will go off favourite.
Yeah, can't argue. He's the one who's got that ground versatility, isn't he? Because obviously it was rattling in the King's Stand and it was soft in the Wokenham, and he's run cracking races. So yeah, I would agree. Tabdeed, I like Tabdeed. I think he's a good horse. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
last year's winner.
Again, it might be a little bit against him. Diligent Harry has to prove it on the ground, but
here we go.
Soul that I am, I'm going to give Method one more chance.
I knew this.
And I tell you why, because I think he's what we call in the game a flat track bully, and he's got the flat track again. He won at Doncaster the first time out. He absolutely hacked up and he slammed Fev Rover, who's turned out to be a rather good filly. Obviously placed in the Guineas this year. He came out next time and he won at Newbury. He absolutely slammed the Gurkha. He won a Group 3 later on at Kempton. Then he lost the plot. I mean, he might have had a slip saddle at Newmarket. He was second in Winter Power on soft ground, right? On heavy ground at Haydock, he looked as though he was coming through to win the race against Rohan, against Dragon Symbol, but he didn't get home. I'm convinced he didn't get home. He was away from the other two as well. But he arrived there swinging a furlong out. And then last time, I think he hated Newmarket. I hated Newmarket in the July Cup. He drifted right across the track out the back. He just never looked happy. And the fact that he's back out.
Yes, that's interesting.
The fact that he's back out straight away. I think he's going to run a big race. This is his chance to prove that he is a decent, high-class sprinter, given his conditions. But flat track is very much the thing.
Yeah, if the time suggests it's not rattling ground, I think Tabdeed will win this. I'm not getting on that King's Lynn. I think the bigger field for him, the better, actually. I'd be slightly worried about him in the smaller field, but I'm pretty sure he'll go off Fav, as Pat said. And Oisin Murphy is absolutely sizzling at the moment, isn't he? So, but Method, that's interesting. There you go. A methodical project for Keels. Big calls. I'll start if you don't mind. We had championed female riders since this show began, haven't we? And it's fair to say, Keels, that now we are on an even keel. Holly, Hayley, we've seen them all out there. They're there, aren't they? Whether it be in this jurisdiction, down under, Group 1 winners all over the place. Molly Phillips, have you seen her recently?
I have.
My Lord.
I've been smashing the winners, just like Laura Pearson was doing earlier in the year, wasn't she? Yeah.
Absolutely, another breakthrough at Royal Ascot. This is a girl going places. If you remember, if you go back to under curfew when that horse won at Bath last September for Tony Cowell, they had a jockey cam on her at the time. It was brilliant television to watch because she was screaming the elation. It was her first winner. Tony Cowell's having a really good time of it at the moment this summer, and she's now 12 from her last 42, I think.
I know,
it's ridiculous.
It's scarily good strike rate. It just goes to show, if you get someone who, like Holly Lloyd, who makes that big breakthrough, what it can do.
Yeah.
Because people realise, not just the girls that are coming through to realise that I've got a chance, but actually trainers, owners are realising, well, hang on a minute, these girls can do it.
Yeah, Georgia Dobie was mentioned.
So this is it. Yeah, well, this is it. Georgia Dobie actually won me loads of money at Sandown on High Anna a couple of years ago, in the middle of the summer.
High Anna, there's an interesting horse, Eve. I've been waiting.
Forgot to mention.
I've been waiting for her to peak this year, Eve. What's the crack with High Anna at the moment?
Yeah, she needs to come down the handicap again. She's so consistent. The handicap doesn't really give her a chance, and when they get older, they probably need a little bit more of a chance. But she'll definitely win again this year.
That's right. As I say, this is my cheeky one. Needs to come down the handicap. That's the problem. Run them down the handicap, Eve. Be a little bit cheeky with them. Don't try all the time. No, you shouldn't say that.
You're going to get me in trouble.
Very accidental agent for the next 2 months, and then run him in the Balmoral.
The Balmoral had to come out
off 97. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we can absolutely get Georgia on. Nice £5 off. Exactly. Maybe even Molly Phillips. And is that the plan then, Eve?
Well, it's got to be a plan, hasn't it? He loves Ascot, so it makes sense.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, Group 1 winner.
That wasn't quite my big call. I've got a I've got a horse who's a bit of a cliff horse of mine, and I've been following him all season, and I get sucked in the back of him every time, even if I don't tip him. Mondamedge. He finished third again at Ascot the other day. He is a ludicrously talented horse, but a bit of a nutcase. But if there's a race that is going to suit him, it's going to be the Stewards' Cup, isn't it? Fast downhill, go like bats out of hell, always go miles too fast. He's going to finish. He's just gone up to 91. I think that'll be enough to get him in. 25 to 1 for the Stewards' Cup. Each way bet. Anti-post bets on the Stewards' Cup are perfect because if you get balloted out, there's another race to go in, right? So it's not a case of, I won't get in, I won't bother entering him. He'll just go into consolation and you get your money back. 25 to 1, Mondamedge. He'll be in the frame.
All of our regular viewers going, he's still going on about Mondamedge. Pat Cooney, what's the big call?
Well, I was struggling to come up with one really until about 10:05 on Thursday evening when Golden Pal of Wesley Ward's made his 3-year-old reappearance. As a horse, remember, narrowly beaten at Royal Ascot as a juvenile, and then he won on the Breeders' Cup meeting. And Wesley Ward, good friend of the show, we did ask him about the horse, and he said potentially the best I've ever trained. So I watched him last night. He was 5 to 1 on. He won very, very easily. But he was doing 11 seconds for furlongs, which is just absolutely rapid. It was his comeback run. Hopefully he'll rock up now in the Nunthorpe Stakes. You can imagine Batash, Golden Pal, Dragon Symbol, Winter Power. Everybody loves the idea of Winter Power going back to York, 5 furlongs on fast ground. I hope they all turn up. I hope it's lightning fast ground. And I can only imagine the track record is absolutely bound to go. And I think Golden Pal will win it.
There you go. Okay, a golden call from Pat Cooney. There are your weekend big calls. Shall we give you a classic then? All right, why not? 3:25 at the Curragh. It is the Snowfall Irish Oaks. I should call it that because we have one filly that looks absolutely head and shoulders above the rest. The dangers look perhaps like they're coming from the same stable. Pat Cooney, what are we going to do with this? How short was she when you opened up on the betting?
Well, she's currently 4 to 1 on, and I can tell you this, there was a collective groan, I'm sure, amongst the bookmaking industry when we got the final declarations through. We were hoping there'd just be the 7, so we'd be paying first 2 places. Guess what? There's the dead 8. A collective groan around the betting industry from the layers. This is a bad each-way race in every sense of the word. As for Snowfall, 4 to 1 on. I suppose she wins, doesn't she? What more is she supposed to do? She wins an Oaks by 16 lengths. She won well prior to that on different ground. I don't know how she's going to get beaten. Be a low turnover race for sure. I actually think you might as well jump aboard the bad each way group and look at something like Divinely. She was 3rd in the Epsom Oaks, ran okay at Royal Ascot. I'm sure she can run on and be in the first 3. But 8 runners is bad news for the bookmakers. So I'd have a deeper look at this race if I was a punter. There's going to be horses in the race who maybe just be ridden with places in mind. So don't be afraid of backing one at a big each-way price here.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to Eve Johnson Houghton about this then, because of course on the first Friday in June, it hammered down at the Oaks meeting. Of course, they all came stand side, but didn't we get lit up by the performance of Snowfall?
She was unbelievably impressive, wasn't she? I can't see who's going to beat her. Nothing's going to beat her in that field, are they? She was very, very impressive in the Oaks. Yeah. I'd love to have her in my yard.
Well, absolutely, and the form has been given some substance as well with the second running all right next time in the Group 2. Eve, what do we do with this filly's allowance? Of course, she's surely got to be the one. I mean, if you trained all these horses, we look like we've got a sizzling middle distance sphere again, don't we? She's the one, isn't she? Filly, 3-year-old, wait for allowance. Extremely hard to beat a horse like that, isn't it?
You would think so if they put her in against Love, will they?
Well, I mean, that's the question. They've all got to turn up.
I don't know.
Yeah. But do you think it's too much, this filly's allowance with the age allowance with the 3-year-olds? Where do you sit on that one?
I don't know. I don't know how they came up with the figure, to be honest. I think maybe in Group 1s you shouldn't have a filly's allowance. I think possibly in lower grade races they might need it.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? A tiered class angle on the
handicaps or anything like that, do they?
No, they don't.
They never have done.
Very good shout.
I mean, obviously reasons why somebody has worked it out, haven't they? But obviously when you get the age and sex allowance, we know what a good record 3-year-olds do have in the art.
Became a filly's race, didn't it?
But I mean, that was a funny race, the Oaks. lots of horses you could have expected to run well. They all sort of fell in a hole. You know, something in the back of my mind is maybe she's a bit flattered, but she can still be flattered by a stone and be twos on to win
14
this.
lengths, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's the problem. You know, I think Racing Post Ratings has a £21 clear. Top Speed has a £27 clear. It's just. It's straightforward. Willow won a listed race last time.
This is the one I like against.
If I was going to have an each way bet, it would be that. But you know,
yeah, I think Willow as well. She just, if you remember at the start of the year, Tom Segal actually put her up for the Oaks, didn't he? You know, so this is a filly that's just lost her way a little bit and gone on. Can we agree that it now will probably be Yorkshire Oaks for Snowfall? Love going to the King George. They'll keep them apart there, and I mean it's like almost the enable route, isn't it? Yorkshire Oaks, Break, Arc.
Yeah, can't see why not, but it depends on what they want to do with Love.
It's the ground with Love, isn't it? You see, they're likely to get the ground. Snowfall's got no problems with the ground whatsoever. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think I'm starting to see it a bit now.
Yeah, I mean, she might not. You know, Snowfall might go to the Yorkshire Oaks and hang on a minute, it's rock hard grain. You know how fast York can get in the height of summer, especially if we finally get some sun, as we're going to get this weekend. So you'd have to worry about that, but I'm sure they'll do the right thing one way or the other.
Yeah.
Same as David Manrissier with Wonderful Tonight. He's not going to run her on fast ground, and it's just going to let it go. I mean, if the arc ends up good, he'll run her in the Champion Stakes, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're starting to see it mapped out then a little bit finally where these horses are going to go. Well, it's going to be sizzling everywhere, but the snow will be falling at the Curragh. 3:40. The feature race of the weekend. Yes, there may be an Irish Oaks going on, but domestically, it's all about the Super Sprint, one of the best two-year-old races, certainly the most fun of the year and interesting as well. Pat Cooney, couple of hot pots in this. Is it a match?
It should be, shouldn't it? And, sometimes perceived good things do win this race as well. I think Tiggy Wiggy won this race a few years ago when she had packets in hand on the form, but after the back of a really good recent run. There are the two against the field. It seems bizarre, 22 runners, but you've got Eve's horse Chipotle as our 2-1 favourite as we speak. And next in is Vintage Clarets, who was a good third in the Coventry Stakes. And they are really a long, long way ahead of anything else. The third favourite at the moment is Gubbas of Richard Hannon. But this one's only had the one run, and that was back in April. So, you're asking him to win a 22-runner race on the back of one run. It's tricky. You could see maybe a surprise, but these two are going to have to run below their best to win. I'm sure with the heat wave we've got over the next couple of days, the ground will be more fast and good. I suppose that the big conundrum is which one do you fancy? I always prefer Coventry form from Royal Ascot, so I'll take Vintage Clarets. But I've got a question for Eve here, really. The main two, Eve, you're in 20, the second favourite's in 22. If you were doing the draw and you know Newbury like the back of your hand, would you have picked 20 for your fella?
I certainly would if Vintage Clarets was in 22. It's, you can't have any excuses with the draw, I don't think.
That's interesting. All right, okay, so first of all, Eve, I've got two questions for you with this chap. Of course, he has been remarkably campaigned this year, apart from the run at Sandown, basically. But we'll get to that. Of course, he won the Brocklesby, didn't he? The first two-year-old race, or certainly the first feature two-year-old race of the season. You were going through a quiet time at that. He was, a standout for you. We all know what he's done since. He went and won the Windsor Forest on the perceived wrong side as well. And didn't he blow that apart? Why the Super Sprint? But before we go to that, can you please clear up the pronunciation of his name for us? Chipotle, Pat Cooney said. I've heard Chipotle. I've heard Chipotle. He's a sizzler. But what do we call him in the yard?
I call him Chipotle, but he's actually just known as Chippy in the yard. Much easier.
Chippy, there we go. We shall call him Chippy, viewers out there for you. Now, you've obviously got David Probert taking over. Paul Charlie is, of course, suspended. David Probert did a lovely piece when we interviewed this week and said he's potentially a Group 1 horse. Is that pushing it a bit too far, or?
Well, I don't know. It might be pushing it a bit too far. I might have got overexcited. But I have entered him in the Nunthorpe, which apparently is going to be the fastest race of the century. But, 2-year-olds have quite a good record in that. He is fast. All his times at Ascot were really fast, so he's pretty useful.
Yes, a friend of mine is a huge Chippy fan, a good punter I know out there, and he followed him all the way. What went wrong at Sandown then? Was it the ground?
Ground and draw, and Charlie just had a rush of blood to the head and rode him wrong. But we walked the course, and I said, whatever you do, this is the worst bit of ground is here. And it was in the middle of the track. in the last furlong. I said, please just don't be in here. I mean, it was properly heavy there. And that's where we ended up. And he just, just couldn't handle it at all. So he looked after him. That's fine.
If he hadn't run there, I mean, he would have been one of the favourites for the Windsor Castle, of course. All right, Kills, give Eve some hope, basically. High draw is where you want to be. If you read Keith Melrose forensic piece in your members section on your Friday paper, you'll see it doesn't matter if you're drawing notes where the pace is, but historically, certainly in the last 10 years, you've got to be high, right?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be, like you said, I want to be with the other top horses, and I'm sure Richard Fahey would be exactly the same, because you want to know where your main danger is. These two horses are on all known form, head and shoulders above the rest. Something's got to improve dramatically. Now, it does happen, and it also happens to horses that run below form. I think Richard Fahey had Ventura Rebel a couple of years ago, 5-4 favourite, having gone from Royal Ascot, having nearly won at Royal Ascot. So things can go wrong in a big field, but I mean, all things being equal, they ought to be first and second.
In which order, Kills? You love a chippy.
I don't know.
I've been in a few with him. Let me tell you, he loves a chippy.
There you go, chips of everything, gravy, doesn't matter. But no, I mean, obviously I like both of them. I'm a bit of a fan of Vintage Clarets. I backed him each way in the Cov, so I just give him the edge. Well, remember, it's already 1-0 to Chipotle because he was fourth in the Brocklesby, although he was made favourite that day.
Of course, Vintage was in the Brocklesby too.
I know. So, I think it'll be tight between the pair. I just favour Vintage Clarets. I'm probably not gonna have a bet in the race. And betting 2-1, 5-2 shots in 22 run of fields doesn't really do it for me. But other than your Richard Hannon angle, what's he got in it? Gilded maybe. What else is going to step up? I mean, a lot of them. A lot of those in the field would need to start at the 4 furlong pole to have a chance, wouldn't they? Because there are some, there are some very, very modest horses with ratings in the 60s or whatever in there already. So, don't worry about the size of the field. The two best horses are drawn together. They're going to drag each other into the race, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were first and second. Yeah,
well, I love a chippy, and Eve, I think you're going to win the super spread. Right then, nap time. Paul Kealy, take the floor. This is your decision. You get top rank after last weekend, my man.
Right, I'm going to go 4:10 at Newbury, ready to venture, trained by William Haggis. Went off 13 or 8 fav in a listed race at Goodwood last time, over 1 mile and 2, and the conditions were horrible. The ground was very soft. It was a howling gale right in their faces, and she just didn't face up to it. She didn't stay. She's by Kingman. There's stamina on the damn side, but she's back, going to be on fastest ground at 1 mile in a handicap. She's not even favourite. She's running off a mark of 93. If she's going off 13 or 8 favourite to win a listed race, the third to Creative Flair and Aurea at Ascot has worked out really well because they both won listed races since. I think I've seen 5-1 in the marketplace. I think that's a crazy price.
There you go. Okay, Pat Cooney, got us a weekend winner?
Yeah, the lucky last at Newbury, the 5:20, right at the bottom, number 8, Foxtrot Sizzler, David Benusier, good friend of the show. This fella's only had the 4 runs, and he won well over the 6 furlongs at Newbury last time out. He ran well, he got headed, he looked in bother, but he rallied well, and he got up and he won well. He's a progressive type. That was over 6. He steps up to 7 today, and if you watch the race, he was going away at the finish there. 7 would be ideal for him. He might just be one of these horses that's ahead of the handicap. He only won narrowly last time, so the handicapper hasn't got a proper handle on him yet. So the Foxtrot Sizzler in the lucky last for me.
Okay, along with Chipotle then, hoping to sizzle in the last, Pat Cooney. All right, I like one at Newbury as well, as mentioned in the Steventon Stakes. Move in Time for Roger Varian, Andrea Atzini and Sheikh Mohammed Obeid. Didn't see the best of him at Ascot. Think he'll take this out. Eve, have you got us a winner?
I think that the 2:15 at Newmarket, in my style, is just starting to run himself into form. He's only ever won in July before. He loves Newmarket. Georgia takes 5 off, and I think he'll go really well.
Lovely. There you are then, spread across the big tracks, a 4-timer for you. Well, that's all we've got time for here then on this weekend's What a Shout. Hope you've enjoyed it out there. Get your questions in below for the panel. We will be back next Friday as ever. Don't you worry about that. King George timing up. We've got Glorious Goodwood coming. You must be looking forward to that, Eve.
Oh, I can't wait. I love the Glorious meeting.
Yes, absolutely. And if you've got anything laid out for that, perhaps we'll get it off from Eve afterwards. Don't you worry. Are you going to Goodwood? Let us know. Get all your comments in below. Paul Kealy, thank you very much.
I'm going. Stewards Cup Day.
Stewards Cup Day, of course.
Ticket. I'll be there.
Bound to rain, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Bound to rain. Pat Cooney, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm at Newbury, so anyone who wants to come up and say hello, please do.
Perhaps you'll be presenting the Super Sprint prize to Eve. Eve, we wish you all the best. Thanks very much for joining us. Great season ahead. It's been decent so far. You catch it back up after a slow start. And like I say, I think the Super Sprint will be going your way.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Great to have Eve Johnson Houghton on. Great to have you watching. From myself, Dave Orton. Well, don't forget to gamble responsibly this week. It's what we advocate here on the show. Don't forget to download the free must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store, the Google Play Store itself. There's a lot of sport out there, but make sure you enjoy it.